Well, I got a chuckle, first of all, when I read the thing that said this is going to be about self-mastery. It sounds very Zen-like, doesn't it? If that's what you came here for, you're going to be really disappointed. I have, first of all, I want to tell you a little about my story and how I got here. This January will mark my 30th year as a peace officer in Boulder County. It's a calling, something I felt I wanted to do since I was a teenager, and becoming a leader in this career, this chosen profession, has been a goal of mine for a long time, since I was a kid. And as such, as time went on, I became a student of leadership, because not only did I want to be a police chief or a sheriff, I wanted to be a good one. You know, I really wanted to be a good one. And so I've spent a lot of time reading and going to classes and taking seminars, and all the things I'm going to talk to you about for the next little bit are stolen from somebody else. None of this is original. I didn't make it up, and I'll try to cite people when it's important. But just so you know, I'm not trying to take the credit to myself. I have looked around and watched, and I've watched people that I believe to be good leaders and bad leaders, and I've tried to take the information and the style they had and adopt some of that and get rid of the stuff I didn't like. So I'll credit people where I can. The first thing I want you to do, though, is take a little mental walk with me, because we've all been there. All right, you get an email for a person who's been with Boulder County for 29 years. Another department, interoffice email, in a leadership position, and they are retiring. And their retirement party is at 3:30 on Friday afternoon in a different office from where you work. And it's been a really, really long week, and you're really busy, and you have a project due. And the question is, are you going to go to that retirement party? What do you think? What does it depend on? This is the audience interaction part. Alan.
Your relationship with that person.
Your relationship with the person. Who they are, right? What they mean to you, personally, individually. I read a book by a guy named Dr. Jack Inter. It's called The Narrow Road, and it's a leadership book. And he talks about the very scenario, and he talks about why it's so important in some cases that we go and why in others it isn't, to that retirement party. His theory is, and I think it's true, that the default position of human behavior is mediocrity. The default position of human behavior is mediocrity. That's where we all go if we're not trying. Self-mastery, when it comes to, especially comes to leadership, in my view, is the discipline and the decision on a daily basis to be more than mediocre. What it takes is effort, and it takes effort across a broad spectrum of things. And I'm going to try to go over all those today and ask you some questions about it, and also have you ask yourself some questions. But self-mastery isn't, we're not talking about, you know, martial arts or the arts or the sort of things that many of you do to a level of excellence. What I'm talking about is the self-discipline to make decisions every day about your attitude and your behavior and your actions, and what distinguishes you from leaders. See, mediocrity is really about where 70% of our workforce exists. And we need them, right? We need them to come in and punch the clock and do the job, and punch the clock when they leave and do a good job while they're here. But I'm assuming that you're in this room and that you're part of this program because you want to be leaders. And what I'm telling you is the self-mastery theme has to do with decisions and discipline around that. There are a lot of ways that a leader will practice self-mastery and also develop their reputation. But every single person who assumes the mantle of leadership, who strives for that position, and who attains it, will leave a legacy. Whether you want to or not, whether you try or not, whether you could care less or not, you will leave a legacy. People will remember you either plain vanilla, tepid, room temperature, I don't really necessarily want to go to that retirement party, I'm too busy, or because you've made some kind of a difference and are leaving a reputation, are leaving improvements, are leaving relationships that are important to people. The first way that a leader makes a legacy is by and through your promotion and hiring decisions. And the legacy question for you is, are you hiring and promoting the best people based on an unbiased, fair, and standardized assessment process? There's nothing more important than I can do for the sheriff's office than to put really, really good people in mid-level management positions. People that are ready to move up and move on when I move out. There's nothing I can do more for the sheriff's office than to train a broad spectrum, a huge core of people that are ready to take on those positions, so that when it's time to select people for leadership position, there's a big pool, a variety of people with a variety of interests and a variety of backgrounds that are ready to take over and be leaders in my organizations. One of the first things that happened to me when I got elected is I started getting phone calls from friends and relatives about jobs. People seeking employment for themselves or their family members. And one of the very first, and I really wasn't prepared for that. One of the very first things I had to do is figure out how to handle that. And you know what I did? I handled that by backing off and making sure that the system is in place that's unfair, that is fair and unbiased. But there's another piece to that too. As a leader in my organization, I have to be involved in the decision about who I'm going to put and promote into leadership positions. Jim Collins wrote a book, From Good to Great. Have you all read that or heard about it? It's wonderful. He talks about getting the right people on the bus and putting them in the right seat. We standardized a process for promotions at the sheriff's office that involves outside assessors and people that come in and help us, so that it's not a good old boy network. But also, as a leader of my organization, I want to make sure that in the end I have some input and some say into who is in the seat and what seat they're in. Building an executive team is very, very important. One of the very first things I had to do is understand my weaknesses and my strengths. You know what? I can stand in a room and talk to a bunch of people. I can handshake. I can campaign. I'm very good at concepts and ideals and broad goals, and I suck when it comes to details. Put a spreadsheet in front of me, with our budget in it, and my eyes glaze over. I start to sleep. But all the things that have to do with the in-depth policies and procedures and human resource issues and all those things are better off handled by other people, and the best thing I can do is recognize that and understand that I need people in positions of power in my organization that can handle that. The promotion of first-line supervisors is absolutely the most important decision that I can make. That's the future of our organization, and I get involved in all those. The second thing that a leader does in regards to leaving a legacy is modeling. And the legacy question is, are your core values and your best qualities apparent to everybody through your everyday works and your everyday words? I learned I had to live my life by the headline test. And that is, would this make a good headline? People are watching me and you all the time, whether we know it or not. People see me in the liquor store. People see me in the restaurant. People see me at home, at church, wherever I am. And the important thing is the integrity of being the same person regardless of the circumstances. I had a situation right after I was elected. I was at an Italian restaurant with my wife. Went to the bar, got 2 glasses of wine, took them back to our table. A little while later, went out, got 2 more glasses of wine, took them back to our table, and I was confronted by a lady I didn't know who wanted to make sure that, Sheriff, you're not driving a car tonight, are you? No, now, at 250 pounds on a full meal, I can handle 2 glasses of wine. But the point of it is, people are watching, whether I know it or not. Regardless of whether I recognize them, they recognize me and they recognize us as leaders in a county organization. My language actions, lifestyle have to reflect a professional and community conscious tone. The other thing about modeling is considering appearance, habits, office, car. I wear a uniform a lot, and it's not necessarily because I like it. It's because I don't have to iron and I don't have to match stuff. It's because it represents who I am and it represents the people who work for me, and they actually appreciate and understand that I still feel a connection to them and what they do on a daily basis. And that's why I wear a uniform a lot. I keep my car clean, I keep my office clean, I take care of things, I keep things tidy and neat because I'm proud of what the county's given me to work with as far as tools. And I think all those appearances, those outer appearances and that modeling again, around everything from behavior to language to external appearances reflects on the pride I have in my office and my job and the people that work for me. There's a saying in the military that good leaders police their own brass. What that means is when we go to the range and we shoot, we leave all this cartridge brass all over the ground. And oftentimes superior officers in policing or in the military have an expectation that somebody else is going to come along behind them and pick it up and put it in the bucket. And I think a good leader bends over and kneels down and gets dirty and picks up his own junk. And that's like this huge analogy, but there's a tremendous amount of truth to it. So modeling. The third legacy question is handling crisis. And the legacy question is, do you exhibit strong leadership when times are difficult? Do you own the decisions that were made and take responsibilities for the actions of your agency? And I will tell you that being there is the single most important thing you can do as a leader. I have not missed a single critical incident that's occurred in this county in the last 7 years. Forest fires and shootings and homicides and officer-involved shootings. And I think that I don't really actually do that much at those things. You can ask these guys, they can tell you. But being there is critical, and being a representative of this office, and being there for those 1 or 2 or 3 really critical questions or decisions. See, most of the time, fighting a wildfire or handling an officer-involved shooting is taken care of by professional people that know what they're doing and do it time after time after time, but there are critical junctures where somebody has to make a decision and be willing to fade the heat for that decision. I try to reduce the risk that my deputies and my employees face in times of crisis by standardizing best practices, by rehearsing over and over again high risk and low frequency events, by making sure that we have protocols and drills and tests in place, but again, I have to be there when the times come up. The other thing I'll tell you is PIOs, Public Information Officers. There's a couple in here. They're awesome, and they are great for the day-to-day delivery of a message. They are great for the day-to-day message delivery concerning what we do on a routine basis. But when times are critical, and particularly when it's really bad news, there are some times that I should be the only person, or that the leader of the organization should be the only person handling that. The next legacy question is consistent messages. And the legacy question is, do your employees clearly understand the mission and values of your organization? If the people at the Sheriff's Office don't understand by now that we are a character-first organization, I'm going to kill somebody. You have to develop a message, and you have to deliver it over and over and over again. You have to tie it into what you do on a daily basis. You have to tie it in to your evaluation system, your vision of the way your department handles things, and the way that your people treat folks in the community. Our mission statement is around providing efficient, effective public safety and delivering those services with character, competence, and open communication. Characters first. Characters are very important to me. When I look at policing organizations across the United States, and I see incidents, the Rodney King thing, the Miami River killings, the New Orleans scandal, they're never issues about competence, you know. But we spend 90% of our time training on how to shoot a gun, drive a car, photograph a crime scene, interview a witness, take a report. And the thing that gets us in trouble every time is integrity and character issues. It's ethics, it's how we treat people. And so we started a program to teach it and to instruct it and to reward it and to emphasize it and to use it as part of our promotional process and to make sure that people understand how important it is. It's the very basis of why policing exists, you know, and can't exist without it, without public trust. Next legacy question is around systems and decisions. And the question is, are you willing to make tough decisions regarding employees, hold them accountable for bad decisions? Do your employees have clear, concise, up-to-date policies and procedures to follow and guide them through important decisions and actions? One of the things that happens in government consistently is we're always afraid to make tough decisions. We're afraid of hurting people's feelings. We're afraid of getting sued. We're afraid of 100 things, but the bottom line is one of my responsibilities as an elected official and one of your responsibilities as a leader is to make sure that we're accomplishing our basic mission above and beyond all those scare things, above and beyond all the other junk that swirls around us. And that is, are we holding our employees accountable? Are we promoting the right people? Do we have policies and procedures in place to keep people in line, and do we hold their feet to the fire when we have to? Sometimes you have to decide to discipline or even terminate an employee. A good leader never repays evil with evil. It's never a personal decision. We live and operate by a system of principles which includes equal and fair treatment and keeping business business. In order to operate properly under the umbrella of authority we're given, employees have to understand the rules, not second guess every situation. And in order for us to hold people accountable, we have to have rules in place and an up-to-date policy and procedure manual. We also started a program at the Sheriff's Office. There are a bunch of policies that I think employees have to know by heart. Like when you're chasing the bad guy, 120 miles an hour, you know, and it's rush hour traffic and there's people everywhere, you don't have time to read the chase policy. Right? When you pull your gun and you're making a decision about whether you're going to shoot someone or not, you don't have time to read the use of force policy. There are some of them that are so critical, we call them red line policies, and the expectation is the employees know those by heart, and so we test on that. And that was a new thing. Cops aren't used to taking tests after they get out of the academy. It was kind of a rough start, but I think it's fairly well accepted now. A lot of other policies, like what your uniform should look like, or you know how short your hair should be, you can take the time to look up. The next thing is this takes a lot of work, especially on my part, especially given my schedule. But the next one is recognition and appreciation. The legacy question is this: would your employees describe you as someone who personally cares about them and their welfare? Leadership is really all about relationships. It's about value and trust. They don't care what you know until they know that you care. And if you ask, it's not the medals and the recognition programs and the annual awards banquets that accomplishes this. It's day-to-day, eyeball to eyeball recognition about people's humanity and existence and what they're doing for the organization that matters the most. Now that's hard to accomplish with 400 employees working 24/7, but we try to do it, and I'll go over some of the ways we do that. But this guy, Les Wallace, did a book, and he looked into the top 100 Fortune 500 companies, and he did a survey of a whole bunch of things. But one of the questions was, what bugs you? What bugs you? And 30% of the employees listed a lack of day-to-day recognition and appreciation. Not an award, not a bonus, not a trophy, not a Starbucks card. Sure, pay your tax. What bugged him was what bugged him was the lack of face-to-face recognition of their efforts and their worth as a human being. The single most important and valuable thing that we have as leaders to give our employees is our time. And they know it when you give it up for them. And just pieces of it are so critical. I can't tell you how important a funeral is. If someone in your workforce has a death in the family and you need to cancel stuff to attend the funeral, cancel stuff and go. When people in my organization have births and deaths and weddings and anniversaries and stuff, I try to write these little handwritten notes. And I don't do emails, and I actually write it in ink pen and put it in the mail with a stamp on it and send it to them. And you can't believe the feedback I get from that. It's not because the note's worth anything, it's the time it took to write it. Key stuff. Oh, the practice attending behaviors. This is the worst thing. This is still under recognition and appreciation. My biggest problem is I get 150 emails a day on the average. And so I'm trying to deal with like stacks of paperwork and phone calls and messages and get through stuff, and somebody sticks their head in the door. All right? And the attending behaviors mean I stop what I'm doing, I turn my chair, I face them, I make eye contact, and I actually listen to what they have to say. That's harder to do than you think, especially when you're only on email 147. The next thing is coalitions, the coalitions that we form. And the legacy question is, what community and internal groups could you call upon today to support an initiative or move a cause forward? Do you know who to call? Once again, Jim Collins, in his book From Good to Great, he talks about the difference between executive power and legislative power. It's a really important concept to understand. When I was a young man and wanted to be a leader, I saw the sheriff and the police chief as sitting at the top of a hierarchy of division chiefs and captains and lieutenants, and sergeants, and officers and detectives, and animal control people, and fleet maintenance, and I thought, wow. It's an incredible place to be. And it seems like it would be cool. But the problem is that's not reality at all. This is the way it works maybe in a forest fire or a SWAT incident, a hostage situation, where yet it's actually hierarchical and you issue orders and people follow them. And it's just like home. So this is executive power, and this is sort of the vision I had for a long time of leadership and the way it should be, and it's kind of militaristic and stuff, and it's far, far from reality, because the reality is I can't accomplish anything under that model except the movement of people towards tasks who are directly under that model. But I can't accomplish anything for my organization outside of my organization with that model. And so that's, the reality is, I'm here, and this is my life on a daily basis. And then there's all these constituencies. And everybody in here has this. You all have a circle of influence or a sphere of influence, right? So in my position, throw out, who are these folks? What are some examples? Margaret, Think of some.
Oh, the commissioners?
How about that? The commissioners. Who else? Throw some stuff.
Public.
The public. Employees.
Other police departments or other
Public safety agencies.
fire districts.
Fire districts. All right. So my job involves trying to keep all these folks happy and moving in some symmetry towards goals and things that I want to accomplish for my organization and for the county and for the for the community. And so what it is it really never actually feels like you're on top of anything. It feels like you're always constantly in the middle of this circling, moving group of folks who all have demands and all have issues and all have concerns. And my job really, with this legislative power, is not to tell people what to do. It's to get people to believe that my idea is really good and that helping it and supporting it and forming a coalition around it is going to help move things forward in the county. A great example of that is the jail. When I got here, the jail was really crowded, very overcrowded. And, you know, I came in first under this model. He said, "Commissioners, the jail is overcrowded and we need more space." Well, they're nowhere down here. You know? And so what had to happen was a coalition of people, including commissioners and the public and citizens groups, and everybody had to study the problem, and even though we knew all along what it was, they had to become convinced that we were right, that we had a good solution. And what came out of that is not just a bigger jail, but this idea of funding programs through this tax extension. And you know, well, the jail expansion initiative failed years before because it was just all about the jail. And it passed this time because we live in a community that values programs and interventions and that kind of thing. So just a good example. This is little p politics, I call it. Big P politics have to do with, you know, what flavor you are, running every 4 years. Teachable. The next question is teachable points of view. The legacy question is, does your community and your organization know about and understand all the good things you and your employees are accomplishing? Do they know and understand where you are on current issues? First thing is you have to seize every teachable moment to spin positive messages about your agency. You have to repeat, repeat, repeat. You have to create training opportunities, and you have to be inclusive. Every time we get an opportunity to put out a public message about something good that we've done, or a program that we've done, or a person that we've rescued, or a case that we've concluded, we do media release, and it goes down to first level supervisors, and they do a number of them every day. And that what happens over a period of time is constantly not positive messages like advertising, but constantly on a daily basis small successes over and over and over again that reaches the employees and it reaches the public, and it casts and spins a positive understanding of what we do and casts and spins a positive support network in the community for who we are. The next one is mentoring and coaching, and the legacy question is this: are you building a solid core of future leaders? Have you trained your replacement? And the first and most important distinction there is I'm not talking about the anointed few, or I'm not talking about picking the guy or the gal and saying, you know, you're the next whatever. What I'm talking about is an ongoing effort to teach and model leadership traits and to bring up a group of future leaders, preparing entire levels of the organization for the future. A focus on leadership development for first line and midline supervisors, if you're the leader of your organization, is absolutely critical. Spend some money on it. Look for opportunities to include lower levels of supervision and upper level management decisions, and push decision making down. Effective mentoring includes making time to model the way, inspiring a shared vision, challenging old processes, enabling others to act, encouraging their hearts, and pushing decision-making down lower into the organization. And finally, persistence. The legacy question is this: have you established core personal values, a vision of where you want to take your agency or your people, and commonly understood vision and mission statements that can be persistently pursued and come back throughout your career and throughout your time in a leadership position? And do you have the personal energy and fortitude to stay with it? I'll be honest with you, this gets old once in a while. My work weeks are commonly 60 or 70 hours. Commonly 2 to 3 evening meetings a week, and then my pager will go off at 3 a.m. Difficulty sometimes dealing with all the bitching and all the moaning. But I have to, and you have to as a leader, get up in the morning and look in the mirror and make a decision about what kind of day you're going to have and how you're going to approach it, because it's not always easy and it's not always fun. And I try to come to work with a positive attitude, and many days that's a decision I made half an hour before I got in the car to come to work. The top 5 reasons that you're going to get diverted from accomplishing your goals or implementing things that you want to change, first of all, is immersion in the day-to-day activities and appointments and problems of being a leader. You're just going to run around putting out fires. And my life sometimes seems like a series of Hill Street Blues. Do any of you remember that show? Where there's like 20 subplots going on all at the same time, and it's sort of spinning around. You have budget problems and process, family and personal issues on top of that. My kids were teenagers when I was running for office. I begged them not to get arrested that year. They were hellions. They're all grown up and cool now. The ability to sustain momentum and, in fact, employee resistance. The fact is, people don't like change. Employees don't like change, and they'll resist it. So it becomes hard, and it requires your persistence and communication. Develop a plan for long-term pursuit of your goals by developing measurable, attainable goals that you can look back on periodically and say, I did that. We got there. I have a list of 6 of them. They're top secret, but we've accomplished 4 so far. You have to develop a core of trusted advisors, people that support your goals and help support you personally and professionally. Work on them first. Make sure they understand what you want to do, how you want to get there, and what you want to accomplish, and then start focusing downward. And you also owe it to yourself to get away periodically from those fires, those day-to-day activities of your office or your job, and periodically refresh your spirit and maintain a big picture or vision, perspective. Conferences help, reading helps, going to seminars, those kind of things. Get away and talk to other people in your profession from other parts of the world or other parts of the country and see what they're doing. Get out of Boulder County, get out of your office, and open your eyes to what's going on in the rest of the world. And finally, under persistence, in order to maintain, in order to keep up the fight, you have to maintain a good balance in your personal life. Family, personal fitness, hobbies, spiritual wellness, all of those things make you a better leader and a better person at work and at home.